Assalamualaikum and have a good day to all. My name is Nur Shahira binti Kiran and my matric number is 01D8019F2024. My group and I will be present the answer for this case study, which is about Parmalat, Europe's Enrons. Parmalat SPA is a dairy and food corporation which is a subsidiary of French multinational company Lactalis. It was founded by Callisto Tanzi in 1961. Having become the leading global company in the production of a long-life milk using ultra-high temperature processing, the company collapsed in 2003 with a 14 billion euros hole in its accounts in what remains Europe's biggest bankruptcy. Question 1. Explain the actions committed by Parmalat that can be charged as criminal fraud. Firstly, Parmalat hid losses, overstated assets, or recorded non-existent assets. In order to hide losses, Parmalat had used various wholly owned entities, which the most significant was Bonlet, the Cayman Island West basket of the group in its final 5 years, and the holder of the Bank of America's false account. Uncollectible receivables were transferred from the operating companies to these nominee entities, where their real value was hidden. Fictitious trades and financial transactions were organized to offset losses of operating subsidiaries and to inflate assets and incomes. Securitization schemes based on false trade receivables and duplicate invoices were recurrently used to finance the group. Second, Parmalat understated its debt in various tactics. Parmalat understated its debt through different fraudulent schemes. It recorded non-existent repurchases of bonds. It sold receivables falsely described as non-recourse in order to remove the liabilities from the records. It mischaracterized debt or simply did not record it. As of September 30, 2003, Parmalat had understated its reported debt of 6.4 billion euros by at least 7.9 billion euros. Parmalat eliminating approximately 3.3 billion euros of debt held by one of its nominee entities. Also, they recorded approximately 1 billion euros of debt as equity through fictitious loan participation agreements and many more. Third, Parmalat diverted company cash to Tanzi family members. Funds were diverted to Tanzi family members and their private companies in between 1997 and 2003 with approximately 350 million euros to various businesses owned and operated by Tanzi family members. A recurrent scheme was to record the payment as receivables and then move to the false receivables through the web of the offshore entities in order to blur their true nature. The funds were used by the family as spending money. Question number 2. Describe the most recent rules on corporate governance for public firms that could be practiced by Parmalat to ensure the integrity of management and financial reporting will not be compromised. Based on Malaysian Code on Corporate Governance, key principles of corporate governance such as effective controls, corporate culture grounded on ethical behavior and transparency can reduce risk, corruption, and mismanagement. Good corporate governance practice instill in companies the required vision, processes, and structures that ensure long-term sustainability. It is also critical to support good corporate citizenship, which is commitment to ethical behavior in business strategy, operation, and culture. Shareholders and potential investors require access to regular, reliable, comparable, and integrated information for them to assess the stewardship of management, valuation of the company, and the ownership structure. Thus, good corporate governance disclosure can, in the long run, help attract capital and maintain confidence in the capital market.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nurina Hanafi binti Muhammad Ali Hanafi and my matric number is 01D8019F2020. Continue with the question, rules on corporate governance for public firms that could be practiced by Parmala to ensure the integrity of management and financial reporting will not be compromised. The board explicitly assumes the specific duties and responsibilities as follows. First and foremost, providing leadership for the board so that the board can perform its responsibilities effectively. Next, leading the board in the adoption and implementation of good corporate governance practices in the company. Third, setting the board agenda and ensuring that directors receive complete and accurate information in a timely manner. Next, leading board meetings and discussions. Fifth, encouraging active participation and allowing dissenting views to be freely expressed. Next, ensuring appropriate steps are taken to provide effective communication with stakeholders and that their views are communicated to the board as a whole. Continue with the board responsibilities. Separation of the positions of the chairman and CEO promotes accountability and facilitates the division of responsibilities between them. In this regard, no one individual can influence the board's discussions and decision-making. The responsibilities of the chairman should include leading the board in its collective oversight of management, while the CEO focuses on the business and day-to-day management of the company. This division should be clearly defined in the board charter. Lastly, having the same person assume the positions of chairman of the board and chairman of the audit committee, nomination committee or remuneration committee gives rise to the risk of self-review and may impair the objectivity of the chairman and the board when deliberating on the observations and recommendations put forth by the board committees. Thus, the chairman of the board should not be involved in these committees to ensure there is check and balance as well as objective review by the board. Question number 3. Describe changes in Parmala's control system and corporate governance structure to mitigate the risk of accounting and business fraud in future years. First, capital confirmation. For an example, offers safe electronic confirmation solutions that streamline the confirmation process by replacing the paper-based confirmation process with a secure electronic confirmation process. Second, when it comes to granting loans to businesses, the bank should be more exact, and government officials should inspect the bank to ensure that all employees are honest and not engaged in criminal activity. Continue question number 3. Auditors can be engaged from a specific firm on a contract basis, with employees rotating every given period. Next, corporate governance measure and profit comparisons should be made by the government. Lastly, independent directors, executive directors, and auditors will be subject to tight regulation. Question number 4. Describe defenses auditors for Deloitte and Thornton may use against the Parmala's third-party lawsuit if they were sued of negligence. According to Section 266, subsection 4 of the Companies Act of Malaysia 2016, an auditor of a company has the right of access at all reasonable times of accounting times to the accounting and other records, including registers of the company, and is entitled to require from any officer of the company and any auditor of a related company such information and explanation as he or she desires of the purposes of audit.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everyone. My name is Nurul Farhana binti Ridwan. My matrix number is 01D8019F2033. And the continuation of the question 4, the defense the auditor may use against the Parmala's third-party lawsuit if they were sued for negligence. The former Parmalat founder, Mr. Callisto Tanzi, has said that the banks were privy to his company's unstable financial situation and in some cases forced him to make overpriced acquisition if he wanted to have access to future financing, which in this case, the losses that they suffered is due to their own negligence. It falls under Section 538 of the Companies Act Malaysia 2016 every officer or contributor of any company being warned up who destroy, mutilates, alter, or falsifies any book or security or make or is privy in the making of any false or fraudulent entry in any register or book of account belonging to the company with intent to defraud or deceive any person shall be guilty of an offense against this act, and they will be liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years or fine not exceeding 3 million ringgit or both. In fact, an independent auditor later found out that Parmalat has been falsifying its account for more than a decade, and that the company was 14.3 billion euros in debt and 8 times more than it said it owed. The testing procedures that used by the auditor were inadequate. The Parmalat scandal erupted on 19 December when the company said it has overstated its assets and its liability understated. It falls under Section 246 subsection 1B Companies Act Malaysia 2016 in place a system of internal control that will provide a reasonable assurance that all the transactions are properly authorized and then the transaction recorded as necessary to enable the preparation of true and fair view of the financial statement of the company. With all this defense can be used by Deloitte and Grant Thornton if they were sued by Parmalat's third-party lawsuit, since the party issuing the document knows the purpose for which it was being prepared and knew that it was to be relied upon in that particular content. We shall now move to the question 5, which the specific procedure that might uncover the Parmalat's fraud. For the first one is observation. The auditor must look at the process or procedure that being performed by the management about the transaction related with the revenue and expenses because they are the overstated transaction. Observe the control that related to the company activities to detect the unusual item because the auditor needs to evaluate and assess the risks that may be occurs in the financial statement, also used to determine if the control are effective or not. Auditor can observe procedure and internal control report performed by the internal auditor. The second one is confirmation. Confirmation is documentary evidence from third party for auditor to confirm occurrence of some information. For example, the auditor in Parmalat company should make confirmation on which the situation when the auditor should make a confirmation with the bank, which is a third party, on how bank can approve the fund without having a proper financial statement that have been audited properly. Since Parmalat dissociated itself from the company and issued share to the American citizen to have a proper financial statement, so they can use the financial statement to make a loan from a bank. And the second situation, when the auditor must obtain written assurance from the director because they are preliminary responsible for the disclosure of related party and ownership matters in the form of letter representatives stated that all related parties and transactions have been notified to the auditor. Full and proper disclosure have been made in the account and financial statement in accordance with accounting standard, so the director must ensure auditor has been noted that stated in confirmation letter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Haja binti Abdul Jamil and my matric card number is 01D8019F2025. Okay, I will proceed about the very specific audit procedures that might have uncovered Parmalat fraud. Okay. Next is re-performance. The auditor must make sure the client deal with Parmalat company is existed. Next is inspection of record. Document consists of examining internal and external record that are in proper form electronic or other form. According to the annual cases, the auditor must obtain some document and inspect whether the powdered milk, which is inventory, was actually existed in the transaction and also system. Okay, next is scanning. Scanning is a review of accounting data to identify significant unusual item. There is two situations. First of all, the auditor should review the document received from the company with sufficient appropriate evidence. Next is situation 2, which is the auditor should review and assess unusual transaction in and out with the cash flow. According to the annual cases, many bankers suspect Parmalat company continuously issuing debt despite an abundance of cash. Okay, next, auditor should use the audit procedures in terms of inspection of tangible asset. The auditor must inspect all of the assets from Parmalat because of abundance of cash, even though the company has continuously issuing debt. Okay. Next is inquiry. The auditor must inquire some of document from the company involved in the transaction. Auditor should make sure that the third party have solid evidence for the transaction occurred. For example, customers have invoice which are the strongest audit evidence than customer who responds verbal. Okay. Next, so according to the annual cases, the auditor should ask the third party like bank or customers about whether the transaction of sale is occurred. During the acquiry processes, the auditor realized that customer of Bonnet doesn't exist. All the transaction related to Bonnet is fictitious, and there is material misstatement in the Parmalat financial statement. So the auditor should obtain reasonable assurance by having professional skepticism in assessing professional skepticism, and also the auditor should not be satisfied with less than persuasive evidence because of a belief that management at the company is honest. Okay. This is the specific audit procedures, which is in our last case study subtopic. So we can conclude that this Enron scandal is give negative impact to the growth of the US energy, commodities, and also services. So this will lead to the bankruptcy at that time. Thus, these cases resulted in wave of few regulations and also legislation designed by the audit and also accounting profession, especially to increase the accuracy of financial reporting for publicly trading companies to overcome these problems. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you.